Phantom Blood is a beat-em-up that follows the first arc of the legendary JoJo series, with one of its greatest strengths being just how close it sticks to the source material. It all centers around Jonathan, whose life is turned upside down when a new addition Dio is adopted into the family, who's looking to take their fortune. It sets the stage for an epic confrontation, with Jonathan having to master his skills and befriend allies along the way, eventually taking the fight to Dio in the hopes of bringing him down. Now the game is all divided into a series of chapters that sees you taking control of various characters as the story progresses, with the gameplay focusing on hand-to-hand combat that gives the player the ability to pull off basic attacks, combos and special moves, all powered by a heat gauge, which slowly fills as you deal out damage but depletes if you take any hits. This gives you the incentive to always try and stay on top of your enemies, and even though the combat's not exactly deep, there's enough here to keep it engaging, and the other characters you get to control come along with their own movesets that help mix up the gameplay as well. One of the better aspects of the game is its presentation that uses a cel-shaded art style to emulate the manga's aesthetic, and it works extremely well. Each of the character models are well detailed, and the locations will feel instantly familiar to anyone who's got knowledge of the series. It manages to capture the flair that fans will know and love, and with a whole host of extras that round out the experience, such as unlockable costumes and an entirely different mode that allows you to play as and see the story from Dio's perspective, it ends up being a great option for anyone that's fond of the series. The best way to describe Battle Stadium Dawn is that it's basically Smash Bros for anime fans, with it bringing together characters from various properties such as One Piece and Dragon Ball Z into an over-the-top arena fighter that's absolutely bursting with style and action. It doesn't do too much in terms of story, and instead relies on its fan service and gameplay as its main appeal, and seeing all of the fighters' personalities shine through their animations and dialogue while staying true to their anime counterparts will no doubt please fans of the source material. As I mentioned earlier, it borrows heavily from Super Smash Bros, with each arena having several platforms that can be used to your advantage during each fight. And whereas most traditional fighting games focus on depleting the health of your opponent, what makes Battle Stadium a bit different is that you've instead got to collect glowing orbs that enemies drop after being attacked. At the top of the screen, you've got a percentage of how many you've collected, and if you reach 100, you're the winner. It's a really interesting setup, and with each of the 20 characters having their own unique movesets and special attacks, there's a lot to play around with, and thankfully the controls are simple, leaving behind the standard quarter circle motions and opting for button combinations instead, opening up the gameplay to players of all ages and skill levels. It all truly comes to life in multiplayer though, and with support for up to 4 players at once, this is where the game is at its best. Overall, it more than delivers on its crossover promise and ends up being one of the best party fighters that you can find on the PlayStation 2. Namco and Capcom's history spans decades of entertainment, so when it was decided to use their characters for a crossover, you can just imagine how excited fans were to see how it would turn out. Unfortunately, it would never make its way west, but it's now been fully translated for players outside of Japan to enjoy, and if you're at all fond of either company, there's a lot here to love. It ended up being a tactical RPG that brought together several characters from the company's past, such as those found in Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur and Resident Evil, with all of the action taking place on a grid where you've got to strategically manage your characters, and when you're in line with an enemy or next to them, you're free to unleash an attack, and this is where the gameplay truly comes to life. Unlike other SRPGs where you simply select from a menu what attack you'd like to pull off, here in Namco vs Capcom, when you meet another character in battle, you get to use the D-pad and face buttons to perform different abilities to take them down. It's a really great system, and with so many characters available, there's a lot to get to grips with, but learning their moves and watching them play out in spectacular fashion is for me one of the game's main draws. Now sometimes one of the 50 different missions will give you an objective to complete, which usually sees you having to protect a specific character and make sure they stay alive for an allotted amount of time, but apart from that, it's usually just a case of clearing the entire grid of enemies to win. Overall, Namco vs Capcom ends up feeling like a celebration of the company's histories, and for fans of both of them, it's something you owe to yourself to try out. My Summer Vacation 2 is one of the most wholesome and coziest games you'll find on the PS2 that offers up a slice of life in rural Japan as you take on the role of a young boy who's sent to live with his auntie for the summer. The demand for a translation of this game has always been high, and back in 2023 it was finally released, with the team at Hilltop Works going above and beyond in preserving nearly every aspect of the game and making it digestible for fans outside of Japan. It all begins with the young boy Boku arriving in the remote town of Tomofumi, and over the 31 days of the month you're free to explore the various areas that make it up, interact with a cast of lovable characters, and engage in a range of different activities that'll shape your memories of the summer. The game's strength firmly lies in its narrative, with each of the residents having their own story to tell that feel really authentic, and the way it's all portrayed through the eyes of an innocent child really helps some of its heavier themes hit home, and it gives you a huge sandbox to explore, where you get to decide how you'd like to spend your day, may that be down by the sea, taking a dip, collecting bugs and watching them fight, or taking your bike out for a ride around the town. There's plenty to see and do, and with the 31-day structure, it's not possible to see everything that it has to offer in one run, making it perfect to jump back into and experience the summer all over again. It's not often that a game comes along where celebrating the simple joys of childhood is its main goal, and for that reason alone, My Summer Vacation 2 ends up being a heartwarming and beautifully crafted adventure. Berserk is by far one of the most popular mangas of all time, which over the years has seen various iterations, from an animated series to several games that convey its deep and complex story of war, religion and betrayal. Millennium Falcon on the PS2 is a hack and slasher that focuses on the adventures of Guts, a brutal swordsman whose lasting goal is to take down his former commander. Of course, that's the short version, but suffice to say the narrative is easily one of the better aspects of the game, especially for those familiar with the events of the franchise. The gameplay is another area where Berserk manages to shine, with the combat being a true highlight. Unlike God of War or Devil May Cry, there's a real sense of weight to your movements, and as you run, attack and unleash flurries of slashes and cuts, your sword will really feel like it's weighing you down. This lends to the overall brutality of the combat, and you've got a few different attacks to help you build combos, as well as a dodge and counter ability that add a decent amount of depth to each encounter. Expanding on the various systems that comprise the gameplay are the light RPG mechanics that allow you to tailor Guts to your liking, and as you defeat enemies you'll receive experience points which can be cashed in to upgrade your magic and stats, such as increasing your health or improving the proficiency of your sword. In terms of replayability, you've got a few difficulty settings to jump into, as well as a new survival mode that unlocks after completing the game, and here it's possible to earn new weapons to use throughout each mode. It ends up being a great package for fans, but for those of you who are just looking to jump into a new hack and slasher, Berserk will still be worth your time. The Maid is a rather bizarre but extremely comical game for the PS2, and sees you taking on the part of a maid known as Yuki, who serves as a bodyguard of a lavish villa, and after an invasion of rogue robots seemingly under the command of a mysterious woman intent on kidnapping the master, Yuki grabs her machine guns and swords and decides to take her role as a protector to the next level. What really helps the game excel is that it's not afraid to have fun, with its humour soon becoming a real highlight and poking fun at the various tropes that anime so often invokes. Of course, without great gameplay to back it up, it would all be for nothing, and the Maid does deliver on this front as well, albeit with a few quirks that hold it back from achieving perfection. It's all pretty straightforward, with each level seeing you having to clear all the enemies, collect power-ups and move on to the next stage, and Yuki has got a pretty decent amount of options when it comes to doing so, from shooting, sniping, dodging and melee attacks, as well as special skills such as charged shots that can take out multiple enemies at a time. Where the fun lies though is with combining all of these together into stylish combos, and with a variety of enemies you're always kept on your toes throughout its runtime. Boss battles end up being the star of the show, and when you're taking down helicopters with a samurai sword, you know you're in for a good time. And this once again all comes back to the game not being afraid to have fun and throw you into some of the most bizarre situations you could imagine, all the while playing it straight. So for those of you that enjoy the absurd, The Maid is worth taking a look at. Dragon Quest V is a remake of a Super Nintendo game that released way back in 1992, and as you would guess, this version comes along with a whole range of enhancements, from better visuals to quality of life improvements, all the while preserving the essence of the original. Like many Dragon Quest games, the heart of the adventure is the story, and the one told here is by far one of the best to ever come out of the series. You play as a nameless hero as you watch their life unfold from their birth right up to adulthood and travel with your father, who sets you on a path that's tied to a mysterious legend. Watching your character grow from an inquisitive child to a battle-hardened warrior with his own children is something that ends up being quite emotional. But what really cements it as one of the best RPGs on the PlayStation 2 is the gameplay. If you're at all familiar with the previous games in the series, then you'll know exactly what to expect, with the game giving you a vibrant world to explore filled with quirky NPCs and monsters that try at nothing to stop you dead in your tracks. What really stands out though is the recruitment system that lets you befriend defeated monsters, and with over 70 of them to collect, each with their own unique abilities, there's a lot to experiment with. So if you're like me and have been a long-time fan of the series, I highly recommend giving the Heavenly Bride a go. Initial D Special Stage is based on the anime of the same name and faithfully recreates the world of the show, featuring various mountain passes and cars that have become synonymous with the franchise. You step into the shoes of Takumi and other iconic racers as you battle it out on the narrow, winding roads of Japan's most demanding tracks. And at its core, it's a game about mastering the art of drift racing and shares a lot of similarities with the likes of Ridge Racer, with it offering a much more arcadey approach to its gameplay. The game is made up of two main modes, and you've got Time Attack and Legend, with the latter delivering the bulk of what the game has to offer. It's all split up into a range of different races or battles that see you being rewarded with points upon their completion, and you can then use the points to upgrade your car's performance and appearance in the garage, which all have a noticeable effect out on the road. Now the controls are quite loose, and it'll take some time to get used to the handling of each car, but if you stick with it, you'll be nailing each corner in no time. Now the game does require a lot of grinding to get to the higher levels and defeat some of the more difficult rivals, which sees you having to repeat most of the stages. But with the fun and exhilarating gameplay, it never once feels like a chore, and with the amount of unlockable content, you'll always feel like you're being rewarded. While it may not cater to casual players due to its challenging gameplay, fans of the series and racing enthusiasts will find much to love in this tribute to the long-running franchise. So whether you're a die-hard Initial D fan or someone just looking for a unique and rewarding racing game, Special Stage is a must-have title for the PS2. The Ape Escape series has been a huge part of PlayStation's history, with it first making an appearance on the PS1 and then going on to spawn countless sequels. But a lesser known spin-off, Peepo Saru, would hang up the monkey-catching mechanics of the series past and instead opt for a bizarre yet hilarious premise that saw you using a hoover to suck the pants off the mischievous apes and collect them all to be washed. It takes a much more arcadey approach to the gameplay and once again sees you controlling Spike, with the goal being to collect a set number of pants throughout each level. What makes it challenging is that the monkeys will try to get their shorts back, and you've got to fight them off by using your hoover, which essentially doubles as a melee weapon, allowing you to poke and swing at the monkeys as well as suck them in and use them as projectiles. It ends up being a lot of fun, and to top it off, you've also got access to what are known as bomb tokens that add a bit of variety to the chaos and allow you to pull off explosive attacks. There's just over 20 levels to work through that take place across a range of locales, such as jungles, beaches and futuristic cityscapes that introduce all manner of different challenges to overcome, such as faster monkeys or more intricate terrain, ensuring that the gameplay never begins to feel dull across its short runtime of about 3 to 4 hours. After completing it, an expert mode becomes available that ramps up the mayhem to 11 and offers a nice amount of challenge for players who are looking to get a bit more out of the game. Overall, if you love Ape Escape or other PlayStation 2 oddities like Katamari, then you'll definitely find a lot to enjoy with Peepo Saru. The Front Mission series is one of Square's longest running franchises, and the 5th entry has to be one of my personal favourites that have ever come out of the series. It took the lessons that were learnt from the previous games and brought together the best aspects of each into what feels like the definitive version of the Front Mission experience. It's a tactical RPG that throws you into the role of a soldier who gets to participate in various conflicts throughout the world. Taking place over the course of several decades, you'll slowly become witness to hidden truths regarding the wars you're taking part in, with the plot offering plenty of twists and turns. Now like those before it, the gameplay all centers around the use of huge towering mechs known as wanzers that are made up of 4 separate parts. The body keeps it operational, whereas the arms are for equipping and using weapons, and finally the legs granting movement and evasive abilities on the battlefield. Of course, customization soon becomes a huge aspect of the game, and throughout its course you're able to fully customize your mechs with a whole range of different weapons, armor and skills that have a real effect on the tactics that you can employ in battle. It's not just the mechs though, as pilots also factor into the ways you can approach each fight, as they all have their own unique abilities, and as you visit various bases throughout the world, you're able to recruit them into your cause and piece together a formidable team. To put it simply, Scars of the War is a masterpiece in terms of its amount of strategy, customization and story that all come together to create what is perhaps one of the greatest games the PS2 ever received. Well, that does it for another video. Keep an eye out for the next part, as that will be coming up soon, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified about new videos. You can follow me on all of the socials, which are linked below, to stay up to date, and also join my growing community on Discord to meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters: Rhino, Skill Jim, Shuden, Richard, Amy, Daniel, Dio, Omar, Strider, Pierre, Carl, Awesome Jacket Dude, Maximus, Scott, Alfred, Terry, Ryan, Alex, GameCube Galaxy, Curse Salaryman, Fake and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining the Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find all of these links down below.